right. There's quite the quorum already, so we have a good number of people already in, so we can get started. And the recording of this webinar will be available online later, so everyone can always refer back to it. Okay, once again, to those that just joined, thank you for taking the time to be present in this WriteBack product walkthrough. We'll be doing a showcase of the new features for 4.3. That's going to be 4.3 for the WriteBack server or 1.1 for the WriteBack Cloud. The new features will both be available on WriteBack server and WriteBack Cloud. I'll be focusing on the beginning on the new features. So we'll do a quick rundown of those for those that already are familiar with WriteBack. But I also see a lot of new names in the list. So I'll take also a quick rundown of all the WriteBack features, what you can do with WriteBack, the most common use cases, and the two product offering, so both cloud and server. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. My name is Bruno. I'm part of the WriteBack support team. And if you need any support or any help during your WriteBack usage or trial periods while we're experimenting WriteBack, you can reach us at any time to our support email or directly at me. And we also have a service desk in place where you can open any questions at any time. Okay, so for those that are not familiar with WriteBack yet, it let us go beyond our data. And what I mean by that is essentially any actionable process on WriteBack, or rather on Tableau, that would require WriteBack is now able to get that functionality introduced directly on Tableau using WriteBack. So anything ranging from replacing values, forecasting, just a simple act of providing a comment on a specific data point can be done on WriteBack now. And we wanted to do these because WriteBack is not really, or because Tableau is not really capable of doing this from the start, not at least natively. So that's where extensions come in, and particularly WriteBack. And with WriteBack, we get what we don't actually have in the typical alternatives like Excel files or any type of different tool that gives you takes you out of the typical workflow that you have within Tableau. This way, you can just focus directly in Tableau and get all of that within your users, so they are focused in the work. So and that's exactly where WriteBack comes in, letting you do that directly on Tableau. So it's very easy to set up, both for the administrators as well as the end users that are developing the dashboards or even creating your data, like the users that will be there commenting. It's very easy for them to enable these on the Tableau dashboards. Of course, it has all the security and auditing aspects that you expect from an enterprise-grade product, giving you that control and that leverage that you want to manage your users, manage your database connections, and all that. Because we also have the WriteBack Manager, which is the tool that lets you set up WriteBack and control it within your infrastructure. And right, so on the new features, we now introduced on the note from before in terms of governance and keeping a good level of access controls with your users. We now have groups on WriteBack. So previously, every time someone logged in to WriteBack, they would be added to a list of users, right? So you could go into the manager, control their access, like if someone moved out of the project or no longer is using Writeback, it can go there and easily make it so they don't count towards the license anymore, or just simply restrict their creation access so they cannot create Writeback datasets, or better control essentially what your users can do on Writeback. Now with groups, essentially you can create groups within the Writeback Manager interface, and it makes it much more easy than on Writeback to set permissions on a dataset level. So previously on release 4.2, we actually added additional permission levels, more granular on a dataset by dataset basis. But then we found that using groups would be a really nice way to enable these type of controls of the permissions on a more broader level. We started with the granularity of going user by user. Now we can also do it on groups. These groups can also be synchronized with your Tableau groups as well. So previously, it was already possible to import users from a specific group on Tableau and create that synchronization automatically. Now, in addition to this, you create the group on the Writeback side, and then you can create a scheduling job that will periodically go into a specific Tableau group and import the users or verify if there's any changes in the users to that Writeback group. In addition to that, we also added on the Writeback side the auto refresh for the rich text viewer. So this is something that we was requested in the past by our customers, and it's a really nice feature to have if you are using rich text. So previously, you had to reload the dashboard or refresh the page to essentially get the updated information on the rich text. And now that just happens seamlessly right away after new data is inserted. So we're also going to take a look into that. And since this is a minor upgrade, so there aren't like any big new features, so it's like a more an incremental upgrade. We also considered introducing a lot of quality of life improvements that our customers have been asking for us during the lifetime of the product. So we introduced an option to show a delete confirmation when users are deleting data from the timeline. So people found that it was potentially too easy to delete data. And of course, Writeback never deletes the data, so you always have the auditing information of the data in your database. But users or administrators were finding users deleting that way too easy or not exactly knowing what was happening. So we had this option that you can opt in, so you have the deleting confirmation when you go to delete something. So the mandatory fields now have an indication next to them. So they have like a little asterisk, so you know that they are mandatory. That's something that also wasn't there before. So now it's very easy to tell if something is mandatory or not. Another very highly requested feature was the switch between data grid and standard form. So when you're configuring Writeback for the first time, you decide that you want to go with the data grid, for example, but then you realize that, okay, so maybe that's not exactly the one I think, and I want to go back to the form. You can now do that. Just go edit the configuration, toggle, and save. Then I'll switch these on around. Let's just go to this one first. So the bulk upload feature that downloads the template file, so you can upload multiple files at the same time, now also comes with the predefined values. So it adds that validation to the template file, so it's easier now to fill out the template, where before it was just a text field. Now it actually has the drop down with the options. And lastly, for the manager as well, in addition to the groups addition, we now also have search within the drop-downs just to provide a better access for those that have a lot of Tableau groups. You don't need to scroll down to find your group. You can just type it in and easily get to it. Okay, with that out of the way, I can now go through a quick rundown of the Writeback features, how it works. and we're going to see it in play over here on Tableau Desktop. Of course, either Write-Back Server or Write-Back Cloud will work exactly the same for the perspective in the perspective of an end user. So I'll just switch over here to the presentation mode because Write-Back will work the same both in Tableau Desktop, Tableau Server, or Tableau Cloud when using it on a browser. Okay, let's jump in right to the first example over here. Let me just log into my database. And then we're going to get to a monthly report dashboard where we can see the products that we sold throughout the month, their respective quantities, profit, and sales values. Let me just, oh, there we go. Tableau wasn't loading everything right away. There we go. Now I can get a list of products, and this is my source data. Okay, so whatever data I want to build, I can just build it as typically you would do for any other report. And then I'm presenting my products by date with their quantities, profit, and sales. So I can come in here down to any other product. And I can say, for example, over here, there's a slight discrepancy on the values compared to the others. So let's say I want to change this. First thing I will do is log in over here with Write-Back. And typically, these would be the same credentials that your users are accustomed to. So they will either be automatically logged in if you're using SAML, for example. That's something that can be integrated with for single sign-on. Or even on Tableau server, on Write-Back server, for example, you can use LDAP for the authentication so they can use the same domain credentials. Regardless, the users will have a seamless login experience because Write-Back will connect to your existing authentication system. After they log in, they are then presented with a form that was built by our dashboard developers, where they, in this case, want the users to provide updates to the values. So I can come in here and select that product that I was just talking about. I can now see Write-Back is selecting that product or reading the selected product, and I can provide my change. So let's say the quantity was actually 5, the sales value around 500, or the profit value 500 and the sales value, let's say 1,000. And now we can see the comment field is mandatory because I filled out the fields, the comment field showed up, and it is mandatory. So if I try to submit, it won't let me, exactly because of that condition. And now I'll just quickly add a new comment saying that this is a new value from the financial team. Click submit, and then Write-Back will store this information in our database, or your database, depending on how you configure it. So in my database, in this case, because I'm using my own instance of Write-Back, so it's on my side. In your case, it will be storing the data in your database, of course. Nothing gets stored on Write-Back servers if you're using Tableau Cloud, and or if you're using Write-Back Cloud, rather. If you're using Write-Back server, everything is on your side, including the Write-Back server, of course. So that's what's happening over here behind the scenes is that we're now storing our new information on the Write-Back table within your database. And even though it is separate, so it's a separate table within your database, we can actually see the data coming together over here side by side. And we can easily get to this point by modifying our database connection. And that's exactly why I'm using Tableau Desktop. Just makes it much easier to show around how everything is configured. So that's exactly what I have in here. I have my source data on the left, which is coming just from an Excel file from the Tableau samples. And then I have a connection to my database, which in this case happens to be Postgres. And that's where my Write-Back table is coming from. And by joining them together on Tableau with a live connection, I can easily see the new data coming through. And additionally, because Write-Back also has a functionality called auto refresh, where it triggers a live refresh or a refresh of the data if it is a live data source. It's essentially the same as coming in here and pressing F5 or clicking refresh. This way, we get then the new data from here. And in addition to that, we also have a calculated field on top that shows us how the data is coming through. So, for example, it's the same calculation happens on the three fields, of course, with their respective values. So, for example, for the profit, I'm checking if the value is null on the right back side. So the monthly report is the right back table. And then if it is null, I'm showing the original value. Otherwise, I'm actually showing the right back value. And this way, I can always get values over here. So even if I don't have a right back value yet, which are all the circles, the data is still there, but that's the original value. And when I do have something from right back, it comes through, and then we get a little check mark, just indicating that's just another calculated field that tells us if there's data from right back or not. And this way, we get a really nice, simple, and clean way to see directly on the report how the data goes from one state to the other, if something was updated or not. And then we can, of course, keep working. And if I need to update multiple at the same time, I could still do it. We can see then right back reading all the selected marks over here. And then all of them would get the same value at the same time. Alternatively to this use case, we can use the data grid for the same purpose, for example, where instead of going line by line like before, I can actually select a whole range of values and then bring them all into writeback. So let's say in here, I wanted to provide new values for all the, sorry, all the lines in here for France. Then before I would have to select one row at a time and submit one value at a time, okay? Because when I select something like this and I change the values all at once, what happens is that it actually gets all the same value. And that would be perfect on some place where we want to provide flags or a comment or some type of status regarding a particular product or item, whatever it may be. And that's exactly something that we have on a commenting case. But if we're working with numbers, there's a very low chance that this is something that we want to happen. So we can do we can do a better approach on that using the data grid, because it still lets us submit all of them on the same time. But with this, we can actually provide individual values across all of them. And I can even do this with a template, making it very easy for me to fill out this information right away. So I'm just opening the template file, and it will be in an Excel format like this. We just need to, of course, enable editing because we want to bring it in. And then I could, I'll just expand this a little bit so I can see better. We now have the drop downs over here for the predefined, as I mentioned in the notes. I can easily set these across all of them, or I could, of course, just copy and paste. Let me actually do it this way. And then I can say inserted from Excel file. I'll also do this for all of them. And then this is where I could provide a value over here for all of them. And I can say that let's just do a very quick calculation where it would be every one of them would be the previous one plus 10. Just so we get different values across all of this. Okay, now I'll just go ahead and save my template file. And now I upload it over here again. Writeback does a little check if there were any errors, like if I put some text on the number fields, it would tell me over here if that was the case. As I have no errors, I can just click submit, and I can see right away that 13 lines were submitted. And right away, you can also see over here the new values right in, because this use case is also set up with auto refresh. So I'll just exit out. Writeback is now retrieving the data from the database. And right away, we can see that for France, we now have these writeback values that were inserted from Excel. And I just noticed I have a typo there. And I could now easily, of course, fix these for all of them. I could just copy and paste. I could even fix on the Excel file and then copy over here again. So I can easily, of course, manipulate these data. The thing is that we can now work on a much larger scale than on the form. However, if we do want to keep everything concise to a form and even provide multiple values across right away, we can still use a form for examples like these. So let's go to some place where I have a lot of sheep plates. So everything is on time over here. So we're working great. Oh, but I did find some over here. So let's just select these ones over here that are sheep plates. And I say that we need to look into this ASAP. So we fix it as soon as possible. Again, the priority is a mandatory field. I can see that right away now, which is really nice for the users, so they know that they need to submit before even trying to and wasting more time. So this way, it makes it much easier to see that right away. And then, of course, all of them get updated at the same time, and whatever processes we have next can now pick up from here and easily see what's in place. On another note, if we don't want specific level or item level comments, we can build Writeback to work with a more broad analysis. And that's what we have over here in the top. So this report is showing us information based on quarter and year. And that, of course, gets reflected on the shipments that we see, but also on the overall performance of the quarter. And to the right over here, I actually have a viewer for the Writeback rich text fields. So the new component that also has an update where we can easily customize or see the data coming up right away when we have this type of customized text. So this one over here is configured for that. And you notice that it's a little bit different from all the other Writeback configurations that we've seen so far. And this is part of the ways you can customize Writeback. So you can have it look like a button, like a built-in form, like the data grid as well, or even like a tabular view as well that I'll quickly show for forecasting, where we can essentially, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be used for forecasting, just that it's the most commonly used for that. Could also, of course, be used for any type of process where you want to provide data across a dimension. In this case, it's 12 months of the year. So we get the 12 months from the worksheet. And then our indicators, so typically these are like the fields that we have on the form, are rows on our table. And each column is kind of like a row in the database. So just a little bit more complex scenario that we usually recommend for people with specific needs. So it doesn't really fit every type of use case. For example, the most common ones being commenting and updating values. It makes more sense using the forms or the data grid. But these can be for very interesting use cases with more complex needs as well. That being said, going back to the commenting analysis, I can click over here to bring up the Writeback form. So as I mentioned earlier, we can have the inline or the button. The button simply means that we'll open the form as a pop-up. And this is useful when you have a little space in the dashboard to place Writeback, but you still need a feature there. You can have write back as a button. It takes much less space, and then the actual form opens like this. They're functionally pretty much the same. It's just the way the information is displayed on the form, in the pop-up form. Everything is visible right away, where over here, if I wanted to check the timeline, for example, I have to click the timeline button over here to see that. And if I want to see the selected marks, I click the marks button over here to see them. On the form, it just opens up, and we can submit the information right away. In this form, we only have one field, which is the rich text field. So I can easily come in here and type, oh, I didn't copy the right information. Let me just make sure I do. From here, sometimes copying things on Tableau actually copies the metadata of the worksheets. And that's what I actually wanted to copy. So we can provide well-formatted analysis like this. And if I want to do a new analysis for Q3 of 2021, saying we are doing great, I could, of course, customize the text as I need, and then apply the change over here. So we can submit the information to WriteBack, and right away, with a new auto refresh on the rich text fields, we get the information visible in here immediately. Right, so as a quick rundown of what the users can expect when they are using WriteBack, that pretty much covers the key aspects. And of course, in between the demo, I try to show all the new things that we can include on WriteBack, except the deletion confirmation. So I'll just quickly go there to the configuration screen while I take the chance to show you how WriteBack is configured. So as someone developing WriteBack on the dashboard, bringing the functionality to your users, you would want to select what worksheet you want to work with. So that's the first option over here, as that will be the worksheet that contains the data that you want to bring into WriteBack or act on, essentially. So in this case, that's the days2 ship. I'm looking at the bottom configuration over here. And then I'm setting what fields I want WriteBack to read. And these are essentially the key fields that WriteBack will use for reading the selected marks. So if I only set country, whatever row I clicked for a country, it always would return the same row for WriteBack. It would always be Italy for any one of these, for example. Now, because I'm going all the way down to the order ID, and I could potentially just be reading the order ID, as I know that's unique on my report. And this is useful for cases where you don't have a specific unique key, and it's more like a composite combination of multiple keys. WriteBack can also be configured for that purpose, where you will get essentially to the level of detail that you want to work with. Then you define what name for the table, the name for the table that WriteBack will use, or that will store in your database. And it's important to know that WriteBack will create this table. It cannot be a name of a table that already exists, of course. Otherwise, WriteBack won't let you create it. But essentially, that's the new table where WriteBack is going to store all the information for the particular use case. So every user that comes in and provides a comment, their comment will be stored in this table. And most importantly, then, of course, whatever fields we want to provide on the form. And as you can see, I have the comment, the priority that's set as mandatory, as you can see by the asterisk. The comment field is just a simple text field. Then we have the priority as a predefined field. Of course, we can also enable numerics, dates with time, rich text, or dynamic predefined, where instead of looking at the options that we list over here, we can actually look at a parameter field within the worksheet. So let's say we have a parameter that contains a list of countries, and I wanted the users to provide always the same countries. So to avoid issues with data quality, and to, for example, make sure I always have an up-to-date list of the values, I could use writeback link to that dynamic parameter. Just has to be a list parameter that contains the values, and writeback will let it show up in here. And lastly, in terms of configurations, we now have the option over here to toggle between data grid on and off, even after something is already configured. The tabular view, we still don't allow that, of course, because the complexity on how we build a tabular view, but within the data grid view and the form, because they use the same structure of data, they can easily be switched on and off. And lastly, the settings that we've already been seeing them at play, but over here they're specifically listed, like the auto refresh, where we see the data coming through right away because we have these enabled. So the data source that's selected in here will be updated. Then we have the requirement of marks, where over here it is enabled. So that means that I have to select something before I submit data, otherwise it won't let me. For example, in the top example, I didn't actually select any data, and it allowed me to open the dashboard because I have this setting switched off. And when this setting is switched off, it means that writeback will open up with all the available marks. But because I'm working on the filter data, that means that all the available marks for this use case were just the Q3 of 2021. And just for demonstration purposes, I have the all option over here enabled. And on a production dashboard, I wouldn't display the all option, because what happens is that when I open this up, I get the 4 quarters over here for submission on writeback. And I don't really want users to be working on this level, because whenever they provide an analysis, they will actually be providing 4 analyses, 1 for each quarter, but it will be the same for all of the quarters. And that's why I have the mark requirement disabled. So when they work on the filtered information like this, whenever writeback opens like that, it just shows with what's on the filters, essentially, without having to select any mark, like the example over here, where I do need to select before I'm allowed to submit. That's a nice way to control how users can interact with writeback and your data. You always have to think of writeback as part of Tableau. So if you want to restrict data in a certain way, we first do that on Tableau, and then apply writeback on top, and we can essentially combine the two together to make the best user experience as well. Going back over here to the dashboard settings to continue on for the options that we have available. We have the reverse source values over here. That's specifically for the Tableau review, so I'll skip it over for now. But the most commonly used ones would be the refresh, the requirement of marks, and the inline form. Inline form, as I explained, it's this one over here. If I switch this off, writeback switches into a button, but again, functionality is exactly the same. We also have unique entries, and that's something that we've been using on the updating data in the data grid. And I'll quickly explain what they do in a second. And then lastly, we have the show user in time. So we can actually also store the usernames on the writeback data table. So that will be, in my case, this days to ship comments table. By default, writeback already captures the username of who is making these changes. So when you connect writeback to your database, it will create the historical audit table that keeps track of all the changes that the users do on writeback. But that's essentially a separate join on the queries if you want to read that information. If you don't want to have that join and want to show the data directly on the writeback table, the username, you toggle this on, and that becomes available on the data table directly without needing to do the join. And the new configuration over here, which is the deletion confirmation, if I enable this option over here, we will see that when I try to delete something from the timeline, it will actually prompt me to confirm before submitting. And lastly, some customization options for the form itself. Regarding the user in time, it also allows us to see the usernames directly on the table. So for example, for these ones over here that I submitted during today, I can come in here. I can see the user in time over there as mentioned. And now I can delete, but the delete will ask me first if I want to delete to make sure that I don't delete inadvertently. And of course, if I can say yes or no, just like any typical confirmation. And I think that wraps everything that I wanted to showcase on the product itself in terms of functionalities and the new features. The only thing missing now is the combination of WriteBack and the manager. So since we're on WriteBack, I'll just quickly come in here into WriteBack to show that information. So under the permissions menu that we introduced in 4.2, we now have the ability to provide more granular control on how we manage user access. And this is very similar to how you can control access to Tableau dashboards and reports using Tableau permissions. And now we also have, of course, the ability to have user groups. So now over here, I have all users by default. Everyone will have that group, but you can create new groups with specific sets of users. And then you can, on the group level, combine the permissions to more easily manage more users. And on the WriteBack Manager, if I just pull this up over here so you can see, we now have that under the authorization menu. So I'm just going into my WriteBack Manager over here. You log in as your WriteBack Manager as administrator, and then you go into the authorization menu. And now we reorganized this section a little bit, so it now includes the groups, where we can create groups like these ones over here. You can, of course, create any new group you want. And immediately when creating the group, you can already assign some users. And the new thing that comes with the groups, so as before, we added the option to get a default role for the users when they log in for the first time. It's also now possible to assign group users to a specific group when they log in as well. By default, everyone is always added to the all users group. This is a group that it's not possible to be deleted. So you can always control all the users at the same time. And it's also a nice way to see how many users you have available, besides the license management page, of course. And these just simply lets you easily control that. With that added functionality, of course, we improved a little bit the usability of this page by including search as well as filters. So we can easily filter by roles and groups, so we can find specific users directly in here. For those that are seeing the WriteBack Manager for the first time, this is where you control all aspects of WriteBack, like server setup in terms of domains and certificates. Of course, on the WriteBack Cloud version, this is not available because WriteBack is hosted in our cloud in Azure. But for the WriteBack server version, you will have to configure this. Everything else, like setting up the database connection and the authentication, that's of course available both on WriteBack server and WriteBack Cloud. And you can set up the WriteBack server connection to your database or WriteBack Cloud connection to your database through here to any of the supported technologies. Set up authentication. This is the authentication app I use for testing purposes and that you will have during the trial period. But of course, you can set up SAML, for example, or Active Directory if you're using WriteBack server. We also offer a range of customization options for WriteBack in terms of colors, the logo that you want to use if you want to replace with your company logo, as well as titles and line covers. And with this, I will conclude the presentation of the write-back features and the overall rundown and the new features. And this leads me to the Q&A. So I'll just quickly grab over here our slide. There we go. Let's try to get that. Oh, there we go. Was on the wrong slide. Okay. Right now we'll be enabling microphones and cameras, or if you want to do the questions via text, we'll have the next few minutes to clarify any questions that may come up.
Hey Bruno, this is Sandhya from Crum & Forster. How are you?
Hello. Hi. Are doing all right?
Thanks for the demo. A lot of new features. I think we have requested a couple of them ourselves, and we're waiting for it. So very excited for that upgrade. So I do have one question though. All these changes, do they make the size of this application larger and require a better server? We have server, write-back server.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a fair question actually. We do try to keep the write-back package as small as possible, considering that it includes a database and the application servers and everything. So to answer your question, essentially the upgrade is not that significantly large in comparison. Yeah, just a few more megabytes in terms of actual disk space. So that shouldn't be a cause for concern.
Okay. And I always had this question, not just related to this upgrade, but how easy is it to access the Postgres database tables behind the metadata of write-back?
So by default, that's meant to be accessed specifically locally on the write-back server, wherever it is installed. But since I believe 3.4 or 4.0, I don't recall exactly what version it was, but on the latest versions, we now have this internal database access option where you can allow this connection, and it will enable you to create a password for this user so you can connect to the metadata database for write-back.
Okay.
When you submit this information, this will essentially take a few moments to restart and apply the settings, and then you should be able to access that information.
Okay. And the Postgres server name would be whatever server we are using for the write-back installation.
Correct. Yes. You may have to open the port.
Okay.
By default, the write-back database runs on port 5435.
5435. Okay.
Usually that's a port that's closed by default on most firewalls. If you're using a firewall, just make sure to enable that port, and it should let you connect to whatever server name you're using write-back on with this user to the write-back settings database.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have.
No worries.
For now.
Thank you for your questions. Okay, let's see if anyone else has anything to clarify.
This is this is Sandhya. Is this released? Is it ready for us to upgrade?
Yes, on the write-back server version is already publicly available on our website.
Okay.
And we'll also be notifying our customers about these, of course. For the write-back cloud version, we're also rolling it out this week.
Okay. And is there anything that any known issues that we should be aware of?
Depending on the version that you're on, I wouldn't say specific known issues, but there may be some configuration changes. And this is something that we try to make people aware of when going to the download page. And I can take the time to go over here, you go into support and resources, and then in this case, because it has a download, so that's the WriteBack server support, you go to the resources, and you will find that we have some warnings over here that, depending on the WriteBack version that you're coming from, will require additional configuration. And this is because after version 4.2, we added a little bit more security. We were audited by an independent security company, so we had to make some changes, and that actually affected the SAML configuration, for example. So after 4.2 and now 4.3, you will have to reconfigure SAML. For 4.1, you will have to reconfigure certificates. So just pay some attention to that, to those notes. And of course, if you need any help to upgrade, you can also open a ticket in our service desk, so we can schedule a meeting for that.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
No worries. Okay, we're pretty much at time. If there's any last minute question, just let us know. Okay, regardless, thank you everyone for taking the time to come to our webinar. And we're glad to help you if you have any further questions or anything else that may come up during this process. My colleague Anna just sent over here a message with an email that you can easily copy and paste, so we can message us for later if you want to try WriteBack further. For the trial and everything, if you want to test it for yourself with your own data, with your own infrastructure, you can always do that as a self-service trial, for example, over here on our website, where you can ask for a trial really easily just by the press of a button, and where you can find all the resource links like our documentation, our service desk, and even some success cases within our blog over here, where you can see what our customers are saying and how WriteBack has been going. This webinar will be available online later as well, should you want to send this to anyone on your team or refer to back later. Once again, thank you all for your time. Everyone, have a nice day, rest of a nice week, and yeah, let's keep in touch. Bye.